avoidance, time-poor players, and people looking to achieve 100% completion. The arrangement provides a more orphaned experience, where many of the greatest moments in Zelda are rooted in the journey across Hyrule and the things you discover, often by accident along the way. The greatest hits in more traditionally designed open worlds come from fantastic mission or activity design. Ghost of Tsushima's duels, Horizon's mech battles, and Arkham City's stealth infiltrations are all among the genre's high points, but these moments are created for you rather than by you. The more directed an open world is, though, the more important it is to preserve a sense of adventure. With too many icons, the world effectively becomes an awkward menu in which you need to walk between the game modes. Its sense of place is lost, and the purpose of it being an open world in the first place dissolves. Assassin's Creed Unity is the poster child for this mistake. Its map rendered incomprehensible thanks to a clutter of symbols highlighting everything from main missions to the most insignificant treasure chest. As proven by the likes of The Witcher 3 and Skyrim, a good open world map knows when to signpost, when to hint, and when to say nothing at all.
I don't know what you're saying, Dutch, but it seems like I've heard it all before.
Perhaps the reason Rockstar Games is considered among the open world's most important custodians, then, is that its games find a way to blend discovery and direction together. The world of Red Dead Redemption 2, the studio's most recent and accomplished open world, is full of orphaned moments. The serial killer, the voice of the devil, and the vampire are just a few well-known examples of bizarre characters and questlines that you'll find during your travels through the American frontier. But crucially, these activities are not marked on your map until you stumble across them. In fact, Rockstar is reluctant to add icons to its maps at all, using them sparingly to mark significant quest givers and previously discovered locations. And so bumping into one of Red Dead's many unusual strangers feels like a genuine discovery, and the quests that spin out of those meetings feels like a true adventure rather than a pre-planned activity. By blurring the boundary between freedom and precise scripting, Rockstar achieves its trademark atmosphere, worlds that feel both cinematic and authentic. But authenticity comes from more than just freedom. It's built on simulation. There's a constant two-way conversation between the world and the player. When snow falls, you need to dress appropriately to fend off the cold. Wade through water, and you'll need to clean your weapons to restore their effectiveness. Act with kindness or cruelty, and the population will respond accordingly. Even the impression of your boots in the mud conveys a sense of believable reality. This is a genuine world, and even your footprints leave a mark on it. While Rockstar's apparently infinite budget means its graphics technology can make a world that looks photorealistic, and thus increasingly believable, studios across the world have long recognized that visual grunt alone can't make an open world feel alive. The land has to react to your presence. This understanding can be traced all the way back through Rockstar's gamography. The very core of Grand Theft Auto is based on the reactivity of the police. Commit crimes, get chased. The Police Wanted system has since been replicated by dozens of games, from The Getaway to Cyberpunk 2077, but it's also the first link in an evolutionary chain that leads to Shadow of Mordor's incredible Nemesis system.
You're back! I think you'll do better than last time!
In Monolith's otherwise fairly traditional open world, seemingly inconsequential enemy orcs left to die in a ditch can return to hound you across the campaign. They return for grudge matches over and over again, each time looking more haggard and mutilated than the last. In the sequel Shadow of War, orcs are able to learn from their combat mistakes and fight you in increasingly sophisticated ways. They rise through the ranks of Sauron's army, becoming an ever more powerful threat with each new encounter. Behind the scenes, this system is simply an NPC tracking database, but within the lands of Middle-earth, those lines of codes are a living, breathing rogues gallery of unforgettable foes.
Sing this song with all my breath, take heed, for this interlude ends with your death.
It creates life in a manner unlike any other game, and that life is rooted in the simulation layer of its open world design. You cannot escape the Nemesis system in Shadow of Mordor, much like how you cannot rid the city of GTA's police or avoid the natural forces that govern Tears of the Kingdom's world. And so while the philosophy that powers open worlds is freedom, these games are just as much about what's beyond a player's control as they are the opportunities granted to them. That players in Breath of the Wild are not free from the limits of their own exhaustion while climbing a mountain dictates not only their journey, but also the way they're free to explore. Tears of the Kingdom refines that concept even further. Your limited stamina and the pull of gravity may shackle you to the ground, but Ultra Hand and the amazing skyborne vehicles it can create will be the thing that helps you break free of the earth and reach that distant mountaintop. Like Tears of the Kingdom, the next revolutionary open world will once again redefine freedom. I can't wait to see the possibilities it unlocks. For more Zelda, check out our Tears of the Kingdom review, and for everything else, stick with IGN.
transporting the prisoner from New Atlanta Sector 11. What's our destination?
Trapped in a hell he helped make, a lone hacker aboard a space station far from home sneaks and fights his way through horrible mutants and killer robots in order to take down the monstrous artificial intelligence behind it all. Shodan, one of the all-time great gaming villains. System Shock pioneered so many first-person shooter concepts back in 1994 that now feel fundamental, simultaneously paving the way for the entire immersive sim genre. Night Dive Studios has done masterful work with this 2023 remake, taking a fantastic game that the years have made hard to play and updating it with modern conveniences that will let it be enjoyed for decades to come. Nominally a shooter, System Shock is more about exploring the labyrinth that is the Trioptimum Corporation's Citadel space station than any combat that takes place within it. Your hacker and their military-grade neural implant are responsible for the significantly degraded situation here, having disabled the AI Shodan's ethical limitations.
I am drunk with this vision. God. The title suits me well.
So, naturally, Shodan has chopped everyone into bits and stitched them back together as horrible cyborgs, made her own strain of a world-ending mutagenic virus complete with freaky mutants, and now wants to export her godlike divinity to Earth proper. We love Shodan for this, because she's just so delightfully unnerving while she does it.
Will turn all earthly life into a festering pile of pestilent mutations.
Evil artificial intelligences can often be depicted as cold, calculating super geniuses. Shodan isn't that. Shodan is completely, transparently bonkers, inflicted with the delusion that she is a god and delightfully obsessed with both herself and her often extremely bad plans.
I must strive further to serve life. I will devastate Earth's cities with my laser.
If Shodan's body is the giant Citadel space station, then you are a horrible little parasite killing her from the inside out. Figuring out the extent of her plans and then foiling them is what you do.
Do not be fooled into thinking that you have preserved the home of your species.
System Shock is old school in the oldest school way, with levels that are deliberately designed mazes of interconnecting corridors, rooms, and locked gates. It's basic design that holds up 30 years and a hefty visual update later, giving you a space to delve out that's hard to navigate by its nature and providing a very satisfying challenge to learn your way around. There isn't really any main quest hand-holding, no log of what you're doing next, though there is now an optional difficulty setting to change that. So stopping Shodan means you actually have to explore, listen to audio logs, and figure out what plans the now-dead crew had cooked up.
Is this really what I left Chicago for? I don't think any of us left our homes and our families to die in space.
The awesome setting and style as you poke around is fueled by 100% pure-grade, uncut, spaceborne cyberpunk vibes. Cyberware? Got that. Cool smart guns? We've got that as well. An evil corporation turned government? But of course. The revamped visuals and effects are great, and I loved the semi-pixelated textures and blocky objects at work, probably best exemplified in the power interface panels. The new music and sounds are a superb accompaniment too. It all works together to remind you that you're still playing a game that's 30 years old, but that this version of it has been brought forward in time for you to more easily see what made it so special in the first place. You can even tweak the interface color if phosphor green isn't your thing. As you might expect, you are going to have to bash, shoot, burn, and blow up some nasty monsters to escape Citadel. While the heart of System Shock is undoubtedly exploration, there's still a lot of fighting to do along the way, with some enemies requiring a pure firefight to take down, while others necessitate the exploitative stealth ambushes of a survival horror game instead. Brute force won't always work, so you'll often have to cleverly sneak around corners and through maintenance shafts to take down enemies that are far tougher and more dangerous than you are. Combat is probably the place where this new System Shock changes most from the original game. Enemies were previously fairly slow and unintelligent, and the whole concept of what a first-person shooter even was hadn't been nailed down in the way it is today. That meant many of the coolest weapons on paper were hard to use in practice, and enemies weren't very good at fighting back. Most experienced players would just run at everything and rip it to pieces with the laser rapier, a kind of electro-charged lightsaber. But that's no longer as much of a viable option. That's not to say that the laser rapier is weak now. Please note, the laser rapier is still awesome. But other weapons are cool now too. I don't think I ever did anything with a grenade but kill myself in the original, whereas this time around I not only used them, I got to fire them out of a really cool grenade launcher. Other weapons like the Magnum and Assault Rifle also come into their own, thanks to more modern design sensibilities, and for the first time I felt like System Shock was a real FPS. It's a testament to how thorough and thoughtful this remake is that I kept having to check if certain weapons and moments were in the original at all. The new stuff just feels completely natural. The cyborgs, mutants, and robots that serve Shodan have received even bigger improvements. The clunky movements of times past are long gone in favor of enemies with proper AI that know how to maneuver out of your line of fire, duck behind obstacles, and rush you in groups. The gruesomely gooey, spliced together cyborgs are really the ones that benefit most from their visual upgrade, going from kinda goofy movie Frankensteins to brainwashed surgical nightmares. I really appreciated the unique designs that went into how each of these enemies fights and behaves too. The jury-rigged work robots rush at you, as do the more brainless mutants, but most of the cyborgs will try to outshoot you. The heavily armored enemies will move implacably towards you, shooting all the while before ripping you apart in melee. Bosses that were once simply tedious encounters, like the vicious Cortex Reavers, militarized gun platforms powered by an unwilling human host, are now tense fights that require you to gather the right equipment from around the station to win, and probably not without dying a few times. On death, you revive at the nearest medical chamber you've unlocked, gear and equipment intact. It's a pleasant respawn mechanic that punishes without ever frustrating and serves the goal of encouraging you to explore really nicely. Rushing through levels can work, but it's easier if you found a way to revive nearby when you accidentally step off a platform and fall to your death. It's a nice bit of older design that aged well, which is good because how you move around the station hasn't. Your hacker's movements can at times feel clunky and slow, unable to perform some actions that have become staples of modern games like sliding down ladders. That one I can forgive, but I'm not sure we needed to be forced to crouch jump in order to get on top of objects anymore. That's a bit of old game wisdom best left in the past. Speaking of the very few things I didn't like, cyberspace. At certain points in System Shock, you find terminals that let you enter the station's cyberspace mainframe, where reality is instead a kind of 6 Degrees of Freedom shooter with mediocre wireframe graphics. Questionably, but perhaps to its credit, the remake is very faithful to these sections by leaving them intact, but that still doesn't change the fact that they could often bore me to tears. Extremely to its credit, however, the remake lets you adjust individual difficulty settings for 4 separate areas of gameplay: combat, puzzles, cyberspace, and the main story missions. If you dislike exploring blindly and scouring audio logs, the lowest mission difficulty will give you clearer directions to follow. If you, like me, hate cyberspace, just turn the difficulty down and quickly blaze through those bits. If you want a more hardcore survival experience, you can crank up the combat and get absolutely dunked on by Cortex Reavers. I did this, and it ruled. I do expect that the most commonly tweaked difficulty will be puzzles, however. The Pipe Dream-esque power rerouting minigame is ubiquitous in System Shock, and second to finding a security access keycard is needed to open many doors and activate pieces of sensitive equipment that have been locked off. I find these puzzles almost therapeutic. They ask you to step back, take your time, and let your pulse settle after being chased around by, for example, two-faced zebra gorilla mutants. I also just really like the clacky in-world interface of plugging and unplugging power cables. Where many modern games invite you to sit back and enjoy the ride, System Shock wants you to sit up and experience the showdown. Tweaking the technical workings of Citadel Station to come out on top and foil Shodan's machinations is just as compelling as it ever was, making the original System Shock one of gaming's classics for a very good reason. Night Dive's remake masterfully brings most of the aspects that haven't aged as well into the present day, with excellent new graphics and nearly all the modern gameplay conveniences you could want. Get out there and give her hell, hacker. For more, check out our reviews of The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Star Trek Resurgence. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
Out of the chaos, they will run and whimper, praying for me to end their tedious anarchy. I am drunk with this vision. God.
5G! 6G! Turning now!
Long time. When there's a treasure this big, I make it my business to know about it. The coordinates on that data drive, they're for the MK core.
We got a job, Baratnas.
Cox promised us a real payday. He said, give me 3 months, and you never have to work again.
I've heard that before.
Whatever this is, it could still be everything you need to help the belt.
Do we want to...
No games.
Time to...
Locked.
Don't these Pashangwalas rest?
What do you think we should do?
There is no good option. Whatever you choose will be wrong, and it's your job to choose.
When you find what's at the other end of those coordinates, the whole system will be on your ass.
What are you waiting for?
Stations! On my word, loot the PDC volley, then turn and burn.
Just like series. Only this time, no dolls to keep you on the leash, yeah?
I hope that my actions on this ship can offer some amends for my past.
Whatever this treasure is, the one thing we know is that it will change everything. So are you gonna spend the rest of your oxygen feeling sorry for yourself? Or are you going to get to work?
My name is Dr. Hendrik Juliet Easterman, and I'm your friend. I'm your help.
The Outlast Trials is a horror movie in reverse, in ways both good and bad. Instead of screaming in terror when something jumps out at you or stabs your character in the face, you usually just laugh as your friends make fun of you from their hiding spots. Instead of a clueless group of protagonists who get picked off one by one, the enemies hunting you are the ones with the hilariously poor decision-making skills. While the early access version of this cooperative horror game proves the concept and has a couple of very memorable maps, it's not one of those games that sprung into being almost fully formed. Expected bugs and a general lack of polish aside, there's just not much content yet. But still, I had an overall good time with the silly, gory, and uneven slaughterfest even in these early stages. The Outlast Trials throws you and up to 4 of your friends into insane and improbable Saw-like death games, in which you must work together to overcome the gory terrors that await. What little story there is so far doesn't amount to much. You're abducted by an evil corporation and kept in a prison under the guise of rehabilitation, but instead are subjected to a seemingly random series of murder playgrounds. You can glean some mildly interesting bits of lore by collecting compromising evidence that immoral company men apparently left lying around its death courses, but it's not exactly mesmerizing stuff. And that's okay. You're playing the Outlast Trials because you want to see a crazy lady use a sock puppet to drill a guy's face off, and there's certainly an abundance of that. That said, even when treated with the unseriousness and gore-filled levity that I think the Outlast Trials is going for, the over-the-top and extremely on-the-nose subject matter can be a bit much. One level features a maniacal police officer who enjoys tasering his own genitals and rattles on anymore. While in another, you're repeatedly shown a bunch of penises for seemingly no reason at all, and then forced to recreate a crucifixion for an audience of school children. I get that shock and gratuitous violence is sort of the whole point, but it often feels like they're trying so hard to be gross and extreme or make some kind of unsubtle statement that I just shook my head at the tactless, edgelordian overkill. At least when South Park does it, it's usually funny. Each of the 3 maps in the early access version has its own bizarre and twisted objectives that must be completed before your untimely death. Like one where you're forced to turn an impure orphanage into a malevolent religious establishment by replacing all the secular materials with unholy profanity. There's another where you have to punish a group of wicked animatronic children by shoving them into a meat grinder, working around various obstacles as you slowly push the cart of misbehaving dolls toward their demise. Of course, the absurdly macabre goals you're presented with merely serve as complicated and unavoidably noisy chores that you're expected to perform as numerous psychopaths hunt you, drawn to the sound of your actions. While it's not particularly exhilarating to, for example, fill a generator with gas and turn it on, the fact that you have to do so while being hunted by murderers and under great duress goes a long way to making things extremely chaotic and panic-inducing. Did I mention that you don't have any weapons? Certainly nothing that will turn the hunters into the hunted, at least. Instead, you must rely on stealth by creeping in darkness, hiding in closets or barrels and under beds, and occasionally using thrown bottles and bricks to distract or temporarily stun enemies when you're stuck in a tight spot. When everything works as intended, your inability to face the enemy head-on creates some delectable dramatic tension that aptly recreates those iconic horror film moments where the protagonist tries to hold her breath while the monster lurks just a few feet away. Other times, though, the enemy AI bugs out and the murderer just stares right at the barrel you're hiding in indefinitely until you decide to blow your cover and risk making a break for it. That makes that game of cat and mouse feel janky and unfair. One of the awesome ways enemies mess with you is by inflicting psychosis on you via poisonous gas. It leaks out from some level traps and enemy attacks, and if you're exposed to it, you'll see hallucinations like creepy Michael Myers-esque mirages or Skinner Man, an imagined enemy who can do you real harm if you're drained of your sanity. This results in some amazing social moments where you shout out a warning about a monster your friends don't see and begin to doubt your own eyes and ears. Only a few games like Dead Space 3 have dabbled in this kind of co-op trickery, and it's awesome. You'll also encounter doppelgangers of your teammates who, if you miss the slight differences in their player name, will shank you if you get too close. That's a fantastic curveball that makes you question whether you can even trust your own comrades. XP earned from completing levels can be spent to permanently unlock a fair selection of upgrades that make the going easier in each level. One of those is your rig, a special ability that lets you do things like stun an enemy with a thrown bomb or see items and enemies through walls with X-ray vision, all of which operate via cooldowns and lend some much-needed identity and role-based dynamics to your cooperative squad. There's also a number of appealing and helpful passive abilities that can be purchased, which let you do things like slide when sprinting into a crouch or automatically slip free of lesser enemies who manage to grab you. None of these unlockables get around the fact that you'll be repeating the same trials over and over again as you grind to obtain them, but they definitely make the optional tougher versions of each level more doable and give you more interesting options with which to tackle them. The more trials you play as your team improves, the more apparent it becomes that the computer-controlled psychopaths hunting you simply aren't smart enough to pull off the great ideas to which the Outlast Trials aspires. Not only do they often get stuck, they also lose sight of you when they should in avoidable ways. Speaking of early access issues, the amount of content available at this stage is pretty limited. There are essentially only 3 levels: the police station, the fun park, and the orphanage. It does come with a few permutations of each stage that use the same bad guy and setting while changing up the map and objectives a bit, which helps to squeeze just a little bit more variety out of each one. Even so, you're likely to have seen the vast majority of content in just 4 or 5 hours. It's especially disappointing that 2 of the levels, the fun park and the orphanage, share a lot in common, including the big bad that's chasing after you, making them feel way less distinct than the police station. The Outlast Trials is a unique cooperative horror game with a fantastic premise and some really memorable scenarios, but while the early access version proves the concept, there's a lot of work to be done to make those ideas pay off. Running around with friends as you hide from murderous killers and complete utterly insane and sometimes too edgy for their own good death games is paradoxically tense and hilarious. But the fact that the enemy AI is about as effective as a concrete parachute and 2 of the 3 levels share too much of the same DNA certainly leaves a lot of room to grow. For more, check out our recent reviews of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Humanity. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
Now don't forget to visit IGN Rewards for your chance to take part in all of the giveaways happening all summer long. Just go on over to IGN.com/rewards right now and sign up to become a member of our growing community. Now there's tons more benefits like free codes for games like the online PvP and co-op virtual reality game Rift VR. Okay, now I've been here talking at you long enough. Right now, it's time to turn things over to Damon and the rest of the IGN crew to kick off the pre-show coverage of Summer Game Fest. Take it away.
Meet Dave, an interesting little human with a precarious love for the sea. He spends his days diving the chilling depths of a mysterious blue hole. And when he isn't merely surviving or rummaging resources, he's often found snapping photographs, racing seahorses, farming, and really anything that grabs his attention. It's this gluttonous appetite for adventure that gets him into all kinds of unique situations. Luckily, he's at the top of his game and at the top of the food chain. Oh boy, I suppose even the most voracious hunters have their off days. The sun sets as the vibrant lights of a sushi bar gleam over the ocean. Dave, still hard at work, is faced with the most ravenous of species, patrons. And while cooking, serving, and pouring drinks aren't the most treacherous part of his job, they're unequivocally crucial to his survival. The Blue Hole is home to unimaginable secrets. And with Dave's unquenchable thirst for discovery, there's no telling what he may encounter. Dive in and guide Dave through the dangerously dark depths of the daunting deep sea. Dave the Diver.
Hi everyone, I'm John DeShazer, and I'm the design director on Evercore Heroes. And today we have a really cool thing to show, 3 new heroes. One from each of our roles, a tank, a support, and a damage dealer. And I'm going to go over each one of them in some detail. So let's get started. Sidian is one of our tanks in Evercore Heroes. It's one of those characters that fulfills all of the classic roles of a tank. Damage mitigation, the ability to taunt, the ability to control some of the enemies and get them off of your allies. But he does it from a far away and with very unique spells. So let's dive into that a little bit. He has this ability to build up a shield, and he passes that shield off to allies. And when he passes that shield off, he will do a taunt and make all of the enemies nearby taunt your ally that has just been given that shield. This is a really unique spin on how to deliver taunt. Sometimes a mechanic that you really need to successfully defeat a certain objective. Additionally, he has some of the most powerful battlefield control through his Q, which allows him to effectively launch a skill shot, travel through enemies damaging them, and then on recast, suck all of them back to the center of the source. And this is a really powerful multi-layered ability, giving you some fun skill shot mechanics, while also pulling enemies to a center point, which is often seen as a really fun way to combo with other allied abilities. So this combination of controlling the battlefield, offering allies damage mitigation, offering yourself some damage mitigation, creating really unique ways to taunt, are all ways in which Sidian still fulfills that role of tank, but does it from a far away through spells, which is really that unique and special offering that he has in the roster. With Skye, we wanted to create a mage with lots of battlefield control. She's a weather mage who can switch between water-based control abilities and lightning-based attacks. She can use her trait to switch between the forms, and every time she does, her spells modify based on which element she is. 1 water and 1 lightning, making her our weather mage. Water form is focused around giving her control elements, while lightning form is there to still give that classic mage punch. We wanted the mastery of weaving between the 2 forms to really let the great Skye players differentiate themselves and show off. You can see using the Q here, if positioned correctly, can be a very powerful tool in slowing a large group of enemies. Another one of the tools is if you use the E in lightning form, it's really great at interrupting powerful enemies and denying their attacks, letting her weave in another element of control. All of these control elements play really well with teammates, setting up great combos and keeping the battlefield easier to navigate, bringing a complexity that is fun while letting her base abilities stay simple. Chef is our very special pairing with the game. We felt it was something special to make our craziest hero in the roster a support with a very unique gameplay style. The fantasy we chase with Chef is quite unique. Players pick between 3 ingredients and combine them to prepare different dishes. This gives us a combination of 6 unique dishes, but once you've picked your ingredients, you aren't done. Next, you must cook the food, and we iterated on this quite a bit and found a simple undercooked, cooked, and burnt loop fit the best. As you are still a hero, dodging attacks, smacking things with your pan, while trying to get the food just right. When you deliver undercooked or burnt food, the benefits are dramatically diminished, but if you nail it, the food is perfect. It isn't too hot, it isn't too cold, and it's just right. You get the most out of it. Each ingredient has a theme associated with it. Q, or honey, is our healing ingredient. W, or chili, is our damaging ingredient, and E, or garlic, is our defensive ingredient. Any pairing of ingredients will match the gameplay of the overarching themes, especially when you do double Q for a really big heal. So you must keep an eye on your cooking UI and listen for the specific sounds to make sure that dish is at that perfect place to then hit your trait key and serve out your food to your teammates. Thank you all for checking out the new characters in Evercore Heroes today. Remember to visit our Evercore Heroes Discord community to share your thoughts on which character you're most excited to play. We can't contain our excitement either as we eagerly anticipate the launch of Evercore Heroes on June 20th. For those who can't wait to jump into the action, we invite you to join our closed beta. Simply head over to evercoreheroes.com, click on the store tab, and grab a Founders Pack to secure your spot. We look forward to playing with each and every one of you. See you in Evercore Heroes.
Wow, that was amazing. In fact, you're amazing. You deserve a reward, an IGN reward. Now, IGN Rewards will be giving away free gaming gear throughout our Summer of Gaming live showcases. Now, IGN Rewards is our online destination for IGN members to claim exclusive discounts and gain access to special in-game items. So be sure to tune in to IGN all through June for your chance to score some free game codes for games like the online PvP and co-op virtual reality game Rift VR, and a chance to win prizes like a 64GB Steam Deck and a $100 Nintendo gift card. The best thing about IGN Rewards is it's all free. Just go to IGN.com/rewards to join our growing community today. Right now, we've got game trailers, previews, and a bunch more. Let's take a look.
Rated M for mature. Born on the shoulders of 3 mighty statues, the resounding beat of a great heart could be heard emanating from the clouds. For the miracle was about to give birth to a child. A symbol in which all our faiths, pleas, and hopes might be united in communion.
This endless waiting has been my penance.
My name is Cherry. I was built to entertain my creator. They will pay for what they did to her.
This here tale begins where Zed's tale's about to end. But before she can cash in her chips, something comes for her. Something frightening. The Undertaker? Death itself? The Undertaker? Death itself? And it's wielding a terrifying weapon full of incense? Must be Shrew, our resident gardener. Gone from Undertaker to medic. An odd change of career. But you can't argue with the remedies. A few whiffs of that, and the squad is right as rain. Better skedaddle, Shroom. With all the trouble your squaddies get into, they'll surely need your help. Smell the incense. May the herbs be with you. Try a whiff of this.
Well, wasn't that special? Now, as we continue counting down the moments to Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, we want you to take advantage of IGN Rewards, IGN's special gift to the most devoted members in our community. Now, sign up now at IGN.com/rewards and gain access to free codes for games like the online PvP and co-op virtual reality game Rift VR. You could win a gaming console, the hottest games out at the moment, plus a whole lot more. So join our growing community today by signing up. But for now, we continue our countdown with more trailers and gameplay. IGN Summer of Gaming continues right now.
I know you may not want to be here, but sometimes we get a chance to do something. Something that will change your life completely. You are here to make things right. Make pain your ally. Fear is a mentor. And luck? Try it for yourself. This place is full of surprises and dangers. But no matter what happens, stay human until the end.
Hello and welcome. This is Summer of Gaming. I'm Max Scoville.
And I'm Brian Altano.
In just a bit, Summer Game Fest kicks off, and we'll be counting down to that with an episode of Next Gen Console Watch, where we will go over what you can expect to see.
Don't forget to stick around for the post-show after, when we either say, I told you so, or hang our heads in shame when our predictions don't come true.
It happens. Before all that, we are getting closer looks at a handful of upcoming games, and that means new gameplay and developers answering some of our burning questions.
Up first, we've got something that's not really a game, but a new way to play them. If the words Atomic Purple mean anything to you, you don't want to miss this. So take a look.
the Joy-Cons and Switch dock aside for what they're calling the Nitro Deck from the newly formed gaming hardware brand called Cracked. And here to tell us more about it is Jack Guinchard, the co-creator of the Nitro Deck. How you doing, Jack?
Good, man. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic now that we got this new hardware here. So what can you tell us about the Nitro Deck? Like, what are some of the features?
Ontem acho que já vimos tudo que estávamos a ver para hoje. Daqui a bocado vou entrar em live com o jogo para o canal. Espero bem que vocês vão lá, dar uma espreitadela.